Hello students, good morning everyone. In our previous session, I have completed lesson number 1, chemical reactions and equations. So today I am going to start with another lesson from part 1, that is lesson number 6, life processes. Topics to be covered in this lesson are introduction, what is life process, nutrition. Under nutrition, we are going to learn about modes of nutrition. There are two modes of nutrition, that is autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. We want to study about nutrition in animals, nutrition in amoeba, nutrition in human beings, respiration in plants and human, transportation in plants and human, excretion in plants and human. Okay, now let us understand from introduction what are we actually going to study here. The name says life process. What is meant by life process? It is a process which leads our life, or what is life process? So we are going to study in detail, right? So before studying that, before starting this lesson, let us recall the difference between living and non-living things. You have already studied these concepts in your lower classes. What is meant by living thing? What is meant by non-living thing? How can you classify those things? All those things you are aware about it. Fine. Okay. In biology, we usually study all about the life and how do we classify living things and non-living things. With some example, we will understand. Okay. Now, let me take some example. Okay. Let me take some examples like fan or a chair and a man and an animal whatsoever. So you can classify which is a living thing and which is a non-living thing very easily, right? Hope you all guessed it already. Which are the living things in this example? So I can take man is a living thing, fan and chair are non-living things, right? Exactly, we can classify which is living things because living things are classified on the basis of some characteristics because they show some changes. Living organisms or living things show some changes. So, some of the characteristics which we can see in living organisms are respiration, movement, growth, digestion, excretion, transportation, circulation. There are so many things which we can discuss when we talk about the characteristic of a living organism or the living things, right? Okay, when we talk about a man and a chair, so I'm going to talk about the characteristic of a man and a chair with respect to the movement. Man can move, but chair will be in its stationary position, right? Hence, we can say that the chair is a non living thing and man is a living thing. Suppose if the man is sleeping, suppose a man sleeps, how can we classify that a man is a living thing or not? Because he is not showing any kind of movement, right? So, how can we classify? We all know that even when a living organism is at rest or a man is sleeping, there are certain things or the activities which are going inside the body of the living organism or the man which we are talking at present, right? So one of the best example I can talk about this character, the man is the breathing, right? So even though the man is sleeping, what happened? The breathing does not stop, because breathing is a continuous process. Not only breathing, there are so many other activities that the living organisms continuously perform even when they are at rest, right? So we can conclude that there are some characteristics which are there for living organisms, which are not seen in the non-living thing or non-living object, right? Fine. So now, to perform all these activities or all these process, the living things need food. Each and every organism require food. So why do living organisms need food? As I already discussed, there are a lot of activities taking place inside the body of living organism, and these activities which are taking place inside the body of an organism, we are going to discuss in detail. Means in this lesson we are going to talk about life processes which keep happening inside the body of a living organism. Okay, now what is life process? So when we talk about what are life process, as I discuss, there are several processes which happen inside the body of living organisms. Each organisms need energy for various activities. For example, the activities like moving, the, the activities like reproduction or to respire. Not only the animals, even for the plants need energy, right? Why do plants need energy? Because it is also considered to be a living thing. The plants also perform some set of activities, right? For example, if you stop putting the water to the plants, eventually the plants, they die, right? Because they get dried up. Or if you keep the plant away from the sunlight, what happens? During that case also the plant get dried up, right? So each and every living organisms have different energy needs depending upon the structure of the body of their body. Every organisms need energy, right? So it is depending on what kind of the structure their body is. Okay, fine. What is our body made up of then? So we are familiar with this topic, right? What is our body made up of? So when we talk about the body, you know that our body is made up of the fundamental unit called cells, right? For the life process, I have already given the definition here. So what is life process? Before moving into the cells part, let me once again brush up this definition. What are life processes? So these life processes are the processes which together perform the maintenance functions which are essential for sustaining the life. Okay, the life processes means the processes which together means all together. Okay, they perform the maintenance and the functions which are essential for sustaining the life. So now I was asking you that what is our body made up of? So you know that our body is made up of the fundamental unit called cells, right? So our body, right, the complete body is made up of cells, and each cells which are present in our body need energy, right? So every organs need energy to perform activities. So we define the life process as it is a process which together perform the maintenance functions which are essential for sustaining the life. So as long as these processes keep happening, we say that the living organism actually is living. Means if all the life processes like respiration, movement, growth, digestion, excretion, transportation, circulation, control and coordination, all the things, if it is seen in a living organism, then we can say that the living organism is actually living. Take an example. If person is dead, what actually is being stopped? His breathing is stopped, right? His lungs stop taking air inside the body. So what happened? The breathing stopped. Now, as the breathing stop, what happened? All the basic activities which has to be performed inside the body of that person or a living organisms stops. So we cannot see any kind of life processes which are existing there. Hope you understood what are life processes. Okay. Now, these life processes, they exist both in unicellular and multicellular forms. What are unicellular? What are multicellular? You are already aware about these terms also. Unicellular means single celled organism. Multicellular means the organisms which have so many cells, multi cells in the body. Right? So, for example, for the unicellular, we can take an example as amoeba, euglena, paramecium. There are so many other examples too. For multicellular, the best examples which we always talk about is animals and the human beings. Okay? Okay. Suppose if we consider an amoeba as a single cell organism or a unicellular organism, even that unicellular organism has to perform all the activities which a multicellular organism is performing. But the unicellular organism, that is amoeba, they do not have any specialized organs to perform the specific activities because they're completely in contact with external environment. But in case of multicellular organisms like animals and the humans, there are so many cells, right? The cells, they combine to form tissues, and the tissues, they combine to form organs, and each of these different organs perform different functions. For example, if some organs perform digestion, some will perform circulation, and some organs, they will coordinate, and some will perform transportation. Like each and every organ have the specific function inside the body of the multicellular organism. Okay, so we have specialized organ to perform specific function. We have come across that. If any one of these organ fail or do not perform the function, then there will be a problem which we can see in a multicellular organism or a human or an animal. Okay, so if the life process is completely performing well in the body of an organism, then that particular organism will be healthy. Okay, now we will study about each type of life processes in our next concept. We are going to study about the types of life processes. Then, what are the different types of life processes? So I have already given some types of life processes here. Let us discuss what are the different types of life processes, and these whether these life processes perform same set of functions in all the organisms, or what are their individuality. All those things we are going to study. Fine. The first type of life processes is nutrition. So we are going to study about nutrition, respiration, transportation, excretion, control and coordination, reproduction, growth and development, and movement. These are some of the types of life processes which we are going to study very short, not in depth. I'm going to say very briefly about these types of life processes. So all these life processes which together constitute to form a living organism, means there are some set of life processes which I have said you right now. So all those life processes, they come together, they constitute together to form a living organism. By looking at each of these, you will be having an idea what are these life processes. So now we will have a quick introduction about this. Let us start about the first life processes, that is nutrition. Okay. So what are nutrients? What is nutrition? So we often already heard about the word called nutrients, right? So what are nutrients? So nutrients are the food materials which are good for health. I will repeat. Nutrients are the food materials which are good for health. So in nutrition, as I said you, in nutrition it is a type of life processes. It is all about that food we are going to talk about. So when I talk about food, how the food is obtained to an organism or by an organism, how food is taken inside the body of an organism, what happens to the food which is taken inside the body of an organism, how is it absorbed, and how is it utilized for energy. All these things we are going to discuss under this lesson. Sorry, under this concept, nutrition. Okay, I have very briefly given some points under nutrition. So what are we majorly going to discuss about under the nutrition? So firstly, when I talk about nutrition, we have to say definition, right? So nutrition is a process of obtaining the food, right? Nutrition is a process of obtaining the food. So what happened once the food is being obtained by an organism? What happens once the organisms obtain, or when they get the food, they take the food inside the body, right? Then the food get absorbed. The food is taken inside the body, the food get absorbed. The absorbed food get digested, right? The digestion has to be taken place inside the body. Once the food get digested, the food get assimilated. What is meant by assimilation? Assimilation is how food is utilized, means used to get energy out of it. I will repeat. Assimilation means how food is utilized or used to get energy out of it. Out of it means out of food. Once the energy is being released inside the body, after the digestion process, means after the assimilation processes, there are some things which has been removed in this process, means some things which are being not used by the body. So under the nutrition, after the assimilation, egestion takes place. Then what is meant by egestion? Egestion means removing the unwanted food or unwanted products from the body. So it comes under nutrition. Hope you understood. Very briefly, I have explained you the nutrition. In detail, we are going to study in our next slide. So moving to the next, we are going to study about respiration. When I talk about respiration, I have to discuss majorly two things. So under respiration, what are we going to mainly discuss is, one thing we are going to discuss about exchange of gases, that is under the process of breathing. Second, I am going to discuss about utilization of food to give energy. What is meant by utilization? Using the food. How the respiration is helpful for using the food and to produce the energy we are going to discuss. So as I said you, we are going to talk about two things under respiration. That is, in nutrition, the food is taken in, as I told you, nutrition we have discussed about once the food is taken in, what happened? It has been absorbed, it got digested, and it has been assimilated and digested. But How do we know that the absorbed food inside the body is giving us energy? We have observed under nutrition the food has been absorbed, right? So how does this absorbed food gives us energy under the process of respiration? So we are going to discuss about that. So here under respiration we are mainly discussing about two things. I already told you what are the things we are going to discuss. That is exchange of gases and utilization of food. Okay. So in order to produce energy, we need some gases. So we will talk about that exchange of gases as well under the respiration. So, what is meant by respiration now? So, respiration is a process actually deals with the production of energy by absorbed food. What is respiration? Respiration is a process actually deals with the production of energy by absorbed food. Okay, so this is the definition which I can give for respiration. So, energy is the primary thing which is required for every living organism. So, each and every living organism perform different kinds of activities, right? So, to perform all the kinds of activities, energy is very, very important. That energy is being released under the process of respiration. Now, you can look at this picture. What is exactly happening in this picture? You can see the exchange of gases takes place. You can observe here a human being and a plant. You can see that a man is exhaling the carbon dioxide. Exhaling means giving out the carbon dioxide, and the plant is exhaling the oxygen, means plant is giving out the oxygen. So the man inhales, take in oxygen, and a plant take in carbon dioxide. What exactly happened here? The exchange of gases took place. This is a process of breathing now, which I have been discussed. Okay, so once this has been done, once the exchange of gases took place, what happened? The next process is this gases which has been absorbed to the body is being utilized, means it is being used for the food to give the energy. Okay, moving to the next thing, that is transportation. Our next topic is transportation. Now, we have taken in the food and also we have produced energy out of that food. Later, what happens to that food? The food, especially in case of multicellular organism, the body is very complex, right? So they have so many cells in the body. In the case of multicellular organisms, the organisms have so many cells inside the body, and their body is very complex. Each and every cells in in their body, means I mean the multicellular organism's body, need some energy to perform the activity, right? What kind of the activities they have to perform? Their activities may be the exchange of food and gases, right? The food and gases are transported to different parts of the body under transportation. So let us, you all have to recall what you have learnt in ninth standard, children. You should have already learnt, you have already learned the function of cells in ninth standard, right? So, in transportation, what we do, since every cell actually need energy, there has to be some way by which energy is produced, or energy has to reach to different parts of the body. So, in transportation, we basically talk about how the food and the gases are transported to different parts of the body. So in this picture I have given the you can see the transportation in plants as well as transportation in animals. So in both the cases transportation takes place, but the methods or the steps are different. Okay, so now let us quickly move towards next topic, that is excretion. Excretion means, what is meant by excretion? It is the removal of waste products in plants as well as in the animals. So during so many processes that are being taking place inside the body, some of the process like digestion, some of the processes like less respiration, there are so many processes which are being taking place inside our body. During these processes, some waste products which are being formed out of these processes, even though these processes are required and performed for the goodness of our body, as a result of these processes, some waste products are being produced. So these waste products are not useful, they are harmful for our body. Rather than useful, these products are useful, they are harmful, means they are bad for our body. So we need to get rid of such substances or such products through the process called excretion, both in the plants, both in the plants as well as in the animals. This is the picture of the human being is also considered as an animal. Both in the plants as well as the animals, the excretion takes place, means the removal of waste products takes place, but their methods are different. Okay, hope you understood. So the next one is control and coordination. So then what is meant by control and coordination? As the name control, control means regulate, regulating something. Coordination, what is meant by coordination? Coordinating means synchronization between the things. What are those things? I am going to tell you with some examples. Okay, so now control and coordination means synchronization between the various organs of the body. Okay, synchronization between various organs of the body. Okay, now let me take an example. When we touch hot substances or when we stamp some sharp objects, what happens? You can guess it, right? So you will immediately withdraw your hands if you're touching a hot object, or if you're stamping a sharp object or a thing, you will immediately withdraw or remove your legs from that particular object. Why it happens? Because we felt like removing. See here, a person is holding an object which is kept under gas or a fire. So when we keep some things under on the fire, what happen? Usually those things get heated up. So as a result, what happened? The vessel get heated up, and suppose by mistakenly if you touch this object, what happened? You feel like immediately removing your hand or withdrawing, taking out of your hand from that particular object, right? So this is because we felt like removing, because there was some synchronization which happened between our hands and our brain. So it happened between our hands and our brain. Okay, so there was some synchronization between our hands and our brain. So because of that reason only, we have performed this action. Exactly, it is decided by our brain, because brain synchronize between the organs, various parts of our body, various organs. The brain is getting synchronization between various organs. So these kinds of actions are performed by the life process called control and coordination. I can say it is that sensitivity regulation which is performed by the control and coordination. Hope you understood better about control and coordination. Now let us move towards our next topic, that is reproduction. In simple terms, I can say reproduction is a process. It is a process of giving birth to young ones, right? So you're all aware about because you have already studied in your lower classes. So then, reproduction means giving birth to young ones by, but why this reproduction is necessary? So why the animals or why the human beings or why the plants have to give birth or they have to reproduce their young ones? Why it has to be taken place? Why it is necessary? Reproduction is necessary in order to sustain the species. Means species has to sustain, they have to live, means for the next generation they have to continue their life. Okay, so for that reason the reproduction is necessary. And the second reason is, if the reproduction stops, the organisms get extincted means there will be no more, right? If the organisms get extincted, what happens? There will be, for example, if the dogs get extincted, you cannot see the dogs in next generation, or some other organisms get extincted. For example, take an example of the dinosaurs which were present earlier, so they got extincted. Now there are no more dinosaurs, right? So once they get extincted, once the reproduction stops, what happen? The organisms will be no more. So that is the reason that reproduction is necessary, right? Even for the reproduction, the energy is required. Okay, fine. So let us move towards the next concept, that is the growth and development. So when we talk about growth, how does the growth takes place? It takes place internally. What is meant by internal growth? Whether our height increases or our weight increases, or what exactly is happening inside, right? Or we are adding anything from outside to grow or to develop. So let us discuss about this. Okay, so growth and development means, actually, inside our body there are cells, right? So when growth and development takes place, the number of cells increases in our body, and the size of cells are also increases in our body. So as a result of this, that is the number of cells increases or the size of cell increases, we can see that the growth and development in our body. Okay, fine. So moving to the next and the last concept in briefly, movement. So when we talk about the movement, both the plants as well as the animals will move, right? So the plants cannot move, sorry, mistakenly I told, the animals can move, the plants cannot move, but the plants show some movements when they are fixed. Okay, so the animals move from one place to another place, the humans move from one place to another place. Any kind of things, that living things, these kind of like animals, birds, reptiles, human beings, insects, all these things can move from one place to another place. Whereas the plants or the trees cannot move from one place to another place. It is because their roots are fixed to one position. But with respect to their branches and leaves, they move in the direction of the wind. Okay, fine. So we discussed about the movement of plants and animals. So with respect to all these things, we have seen that there were different life processes which together constitute to form any kind of living organism. So if all these processes are happening inside our body, that shows an organism is living. If any of these life processes failed, then the organism face certain problems. Means they cannot perform the life processes in an appropriate way. Okay, so finally, we have come to an end of this topic. So finally we are going to discuss in our next slide in detail. But is in this lesson we are going to discuss only about the first four things, that is nutrition, respiration, transportation and excretion. So these are the four major things which we are going to discuss in detailly in my next slide. So that is the next slide is the continuation of this lesson. Students, do watch the next slide so that you will understand the next concept of this lesson. Hope you all understood the introduction and what are the concepts which we have discussed in this slide. Thank you.